Welcome to this week's edition of the Ask Lifehacker podcast. I'm Whitson Gordon.
I'm Adam Dotches.
And this week we are missing the lulling voice of Adam Pash. He is in the Big Apple. But with us we have...
Look at that.
The awesome Alan Henry joining us via Skype. So, thanks for joining us, Alan.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so we got a lot of stuff to talk about today, so let's jump right into the news.
So, as some of you might have known, there was a major credit card hack recently. This is actually something Alan knows a lot about. So, Alan, do you want to tell us a little bit about the credit card hack that happened last week?
Yeah, so this company called Global Payments handles credit card transactions for Visa, MasterCard, probably Discover and American Express, but they haven't said too much. And so Global Payments is a company that you swipe your card at a register, they handle the transaction, and they talk to the banks. That company got hacked, and when a credit card processor gets hacked, that means all the credit card numbers that they process on a regular basis are potentially vulnerable. So at first, people thought that it was limited to people in the New York City area, because that's where Global Payments is located, but eventually it turned out that over 1.5 million credit card numbers were lost in the breach. So the banks are scrambling, obviously, to let people know, but right now it's pretty hard to tell whether or not your card was one of those cards.
Yeah, so I mean, like, how worried should people really be? Because, I mean, 1.5 million credit cards sounds like a lot, but I mean, I think there are about something like 1 billion credit cards in the United States, and I mean, that doesn't even account for 1% of all credit cards.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's one of those things. They said it was only limited to North America, and no other information like addresses or phone numbers or anything like that was lost.
That's good.
It's one of those things. Most people would probably just be better off watching their statements, and if their bank finds out that their number was one of those numbers, they'll probably issue them a new card anyway.
That's good. So basically, just keep an eye out, and you're good to go.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's nothing that people shouldn't do anyway, right? Like keep an eye on the credit card statements.
But most banks are notifying people. You don't need to go on a trek across the desert to find out if your card was one of the ones that was stolen.
Yeah,
no, nothing like that.
Okay. Yeah, and because I also I think I got a thing from Bank of America that said that they're watching the accounts anyway, so that I'll get some sort of notice. But I'm in there all the time anyway because I'm paranoid. So that's the one thing I actually check and worry about.
A good lesson to always keep your eye on your statements, anyways.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so next up, what is this one? We've
Google's Project Glass.
Yes.
Also known as, they should have just called it Project Geordi, because when you wear the new, just like Geordi from Star Trek.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
You probably would have been Google goggles if they hadn't used that one up already.
Yeah, but it's essentially Google is, I guess, prototyping this new hardware, this visor that you wear on your face, kind of like an augmented reality app.
Super geeky
but you
looking,
wear it.
but...
Yeah, you look horrible. But they released a video of what it might look like, and it looks pretty cool. Things like you can get walking directions as you're walking down the street. That was kind of my favorite part.
It can direct you to a section inside a store. I thought the only thing that was really unrealistic at the end was that the girlfriend thought that the music playing in the video
ukulele was really good.
Really good.
Is that a ukulele?
Yep. Okay, here goes.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
You have to watch the video.
It's one of those things that's cool. I can't imagine myself ever using it. Maybe if it was like a contact lens in my eye.
If it really worked that way, you would use it. You would totally use it.
Yeah, maybe. It depends on how many other people are using it.
But it's a concept right now. So.
Again, yeah, it's a concept. It looks silly, but very cool.
Alan, what about you? Would you wear the glasses?
I totally wear the glasses. I mean, I don't mean I probably people said that you look like a dork when you wear like Bluetooth headsets and stuff. I mean,
that's why I stopped wearing Bluetooth headsets.
Yeah, well, that's true. Nobody
wears
them,
but I guess I am walking around in an Avengers t-shirt, so I don't know what I'm worried about looking like a dork.
I would much rather wear these glasses than a Bluetooth headset. They at least have some sort of style to them. The Bluetooth headset is like an ear tumor. No offense to people who have ear tumors.
I mean,
you should always wear them in your car.
Yes,
that's the exception. I'll wear it in my car. I don't wear it just like walking around if I'm not talking to somebody on the phone actively.
Give it like a year and Oakley will make them look cool or something. It's for $200 more.
I want one that looks like Vegeta's Scouter.
Yeah,
so then I can.
Oh,
it's over 9,000. I just want to maybe be able to make that joke in real life somewhere.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we'll see some sort of glasses in a few years when inevitably cell phone service is, perfect and pristine. Oh, speaking of which, actually, there's
what a seamless transition. Adam.
I didn't mean to do that. Another thing that's being implemented right now actually is HD audio, and what that is, there actually have been a lot of different technologies that have used the term HD audio, but what that actually means in this case is some cell phone providers are implementing a technology that has been mostly used in conference calls, and it allows for larger bandwidth on the phone. So all those calls that you have currently that sound really crappy on your cell phone, they're going to sound a whole lot better if you have HD audio implemented.
It's essentially, if you have this feature on your phone, your calls will sound way better.
Yeah, if you're calling someone else with it.
Right.
That too.
Of course.
But I don't remember what devices it's being implemented on, but it's just a few right now. I think Samsung is doing something, and Nokia maybe.
But it does seem like I feel like this should have been out for a long time now.
Yeah, it's really a little.
I'm shocked it's taken this long to get audio quality good.
I mean, you and I, we pretty much use Skype for our phone calls at this point, at least in the house, because cell phone reception is so terrible. Mm-hmm. But I call it to order takeout or other things because people can't understand me on the phone.
Never.
Mm-hmm. And then if I call on Skype, no problems with the orders. Although they all know me now and they know my order.
They do. So that's just one of those people that can actually go to a restaurant and order the usual.
Yeah.
So small story, but it'll be cool to finally see that implemented. Hopefully that'll come to a lot of phones soon. The next thing, this was an interesting one that probably very few people will take advantage of, but the website 7tutorials.com did a little informal experiment on which browser was best for the battery life of your laptop. Internet Explorer came out ahead by a fairly good margin, and Chrome was way at the back of the pack. They just use a simple battery test that with just your browser open would try to run down the battery of your laptop. Internet Explorer lasted about 20 minutes longer than Chrome on this test, which is a pretty sizable chunk of time, and would probably be even more if you were just doing regular browsing and not like serious battery draining tests. Opera was pretty close to Internet Explorer at the front, and Firefox was kind of in between Opera and Chrome. So it's something that, I know that there's a lot of Internet Explorer hate out there, but if you are in a bind and you really just need to squeeze as much battery power as you can out of your laptop, use Internet Explorer.
Okay. I can't, but...
yeah. On a Mac, I don't know. Use Opera.
Yeah, if someone told me Opera was the best for battery, I'd gladly do that. I feel like Opera should get a little more attention. I
don't think Opera gets as much attention as it deserves.
Mm-hmm.
That said, I've tried to use it before, and as my main browser, and it is a little weird. It is missing some of the extensions that I think are essential, things like Xmarks.
Yeah.
But
it
does. It very much is the Ron Paul of browsers, as people say. It's just not talked about as much, even though it does have a very fervent fan base.
Yeah.
Yeah, very fervent fan base.
No comments about Congressman Paul, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Fervent fan base,
because
but not talked about a lot.
We know what happens when you talk politics accidentally.
Yeah. Moving on.
So the last thing is there's another virus for the Mac.
Surprise, surprise.
Well, it's bound to happen sometime.
I know.
Alan, what's this one about?
Yeah, it's if I'm not mistaken, it's a JavaScript exploit. That's a Trojan that gets downloaded on your machine when you visit an infected site. And it right now, people have been talking about it for a couple of weeks, but it doesn't really do too much other than reach out and make contact with a couple of botnets if it exists on your machine. But luckily, it's really easy to fix. Apple's already released a Java fix for it. And if you're worried about whether or not your machine's infected, there's a couple really easy terminal commands to run to make sure that your machine is safe. Like, I just did it this morning, and my machine's fine. But you can fix it with some more terminal commands, or you can download the patch, or you can do both, and you're all set.
So we'll put that info up in the show notes. Yeah. But the moral of the story is just keep your software updated.
Well, it's
it's not hard to do.
Yeah, it's also nice to see that Apple is actually taking a responsible measure on this. Usually they take
absolutely.
forever, but I suppose after malware number one, it's like, okay, well now...
They realize that this is a high priority. I'm curious to see whether that trend continues if and when the Mac starts to get more malware, and it's something that's happening regularly, if they can keep up with that.
Yeah,
it's just a matter of time.
The last couple of years have been really bad for just hacks and viruses everywhere. It's kind of... I just noticed my DreamHost site was hacked today.
Seriously?
It may have been hacked like 2 months ago, and I just noticed it now. But because I just redid the whole thing, so I deleted any old code on some other ones. But on my file server, there was a code injection, and that came in, and that was...
I'm really tired of people hacking stuff. Just stop it, guys.
Stop
it now.
It was redirecting it to a porn site, and it's like if they just stayed on my file server, they'd undoubtedly find some porn. I wish I had used that for transition.
More about porn later in the show, actually. We actually have a question about that, so we'll get to there.
But actually, speaking of questions, we're done with the news.
That sounds like a good wrap-up of the news week, so let's answer some reader questions. Alright, our first question comes from Alex, who writes in, I'm thinking about upgrading my MacPro system drive, currently 500 gigabytes, to a 120 gigabyte SSD drive. What can I do to prepare for a smaller system drive? How much performance increase can I expect? And are there special maintenance tips for using an SSD?
This is a mostly you question. I think.
This is pretty squarely.
Do we all have SSDs? Alan, do you have an SSD?
Yeah, I do.
I think we're all using SSDs at this point.
And we all love them, and the speed upgrades are phenomenal. You have dealt with most of the
speed
problems,
upgrades are everything you have heard they are. I promise you, it will be like having a new computer. You go to boot it up, and you'll go to get water or something, and you'll be like, oh my god, my computer's already booted up.
Yeah,
or you'll go to launch an app, and it just appears instantly. It's mind-blowing.
And years after the SSD upgrade, it still feels super fast. Like, you go back to a hard drive, and you're like, what? Why? Yeah. I mean, I don't use... I have 3 machines, and it took me a while to afford it, but I have SSDs in all of them now. Because you get really spoiled by it.
Yeah, once you get an SSD, you can never go back.
Yeah,
can't go back.
Okay, so but your real question is about what should you prepare for to move from a big drive to a smaller drive. Essentially, the best way to use an SSD, in my opinion, is to put your operating system, and in this case OS 10, I believe, put your operating system and all of your apps on the SSD. And to put all of your files that take up a lot of space, like music and movies and things like that, on a regular hard drive. It says that you say you have a Mac Pro, so that should be really easy. You can put multiple drives in your system. If you have a MacBook, we've done an article about how to take out your optical drive and install a second drive. So we'll put that in the show notes, but that also makes things easier. So essentially, just move your home folder. We have an article about this, again in the show notes. Move your home folder, which stores your music and movies, to your second drive, and that's really all you need to do. It's super simple, and then all of your apps will launch really fast, your OS will move really fast, but all of those files that take up space won't be taking up all that space on your 120 gig SSD. We also have guides for doing this for Windows as well.
Yeah, because you have a great one on downsizing Windows to fit
Yes, I've done it on both a Mac and a Windows machine. It's a little bit easier on a Mac, but Windows users can still do it too. It just takes a little bit more work.
Cool.
But for the amount of work it is, totally worth it.
Yeah. There's no question that the disadvantages of an SSD, I consider them to be an advantage. I think it makes you a little bit more frugal about what you put on your hard drive too, and you learn to put things off. I personally think 240 to 256 is the right size to go to, but obviously those are quite a bit more expensive. Mm-hmm. You can absolutely live with 120.
I'm living with 80 right now.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yep.
I have I have 2 of my machines have 256, but I have another one that does 120, and I do the trick with the put everything else on the main hard drive. It works great. So
yep.
Whatever you can do, it's totally worth it.
Absolutely. All right, so moving on.
Yeah. We have a call.
Woohoo!
From Texas. Somebody from Texas. And here it goes.
Hi, Lifehacker. I have a rooted nut color. The Google Maps application that came with CyanogenMod is nice, but I can't use it unless I'm online. Is there such a thing as a decent map application for Android that can be used offline? Thanks.
Okay, so Android application for maps that can be used offline. Alan, that sounds like you.
Yeah, there are a couple apps. How well they're going to run on a Nook Color is a whole different story, but MapDroid is a free utility that uses OpenStreetMaps. Doesn't do navigation, so you can't use it like in the car while you're driving, but it caches OpenStreetMaps, so you can, as long as you can read a map, you can use it anywhere, whether you have internet connection or not. There's another app called Maps With Me that's pretty much the same way. Also, no navigation, but it still uses OpenStreetMaps. If you're in love with Google Maps, there are a couple of ways to get around it. We wrote a couple articles on how to do this cache map area hack. So you can put your phone, bring up the area you want to go to, and then cache a 10-mile radius around it. And then as long as it's cached, you can return to it whether you have an internet connection or not.
That's nice.
Yeah, and that works for iOS and Android, so everybody can get in on that one.
I didn't either.
That explains why my maps sometimes load when there's no connection.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The last one, there's a really, really kind of, and this might fit in great with a rooted note color, but there's a really, really hacky app at the XDA developer forums called Brute Google Maps. Brute like the champagne. And it has all the Google Maps features, including navigation, but it really is a hack, and it takes up a good bit of space. So you kind of have to read through the thread and be brave if you want to try it yourself.
That sounds pretty great, though.
If you've rooted a Nook color, I'm sure you're already pretty brave.
That's true. That's true.
All right.
Well,
so that's simple enough.
Yeah,
Thanks,
and
man.
we'll have links to all that stuff in the show notes.
All right.
So question 3, that's another voicemail.
Hey, what's up, Lifehacker? I had a question. What is the best way to block pornography from getting into your home network, talking about sites, YouTube, foreign sites in general, without slowing down any type of performance on a PC? And we're talking all devices, iPads, phones, etc., without allowing a computer-savvy individual to reverse the effect by updating the allowed list on a router, plugging directly into the modem, software on the computer, things like that. Thanks, guys. You're awesome.
Okay, so to summarize, he wants to block pornography, not only on a computer but on any mobile devices. Presumably, this is the widest porn blocking request I've heard.
Yeah.
Where or anything blocking request where you take your iDevice and you're at home, porn doesn't work. You take it on the go, it doesn't work, but it's not something that can be simply overridden by a computer-savvy individual. I'm gonna say that for the most part, if we're talking about someone who can like rewrite host tables and stuff, there's not really a good.
First of all, I don't know how you would.
You're in trouble.
I don't know how you would even block someone from accessing on 3G on a phone. I'm gonna assume that's not.
Yeah, I mean, maybe...
We're just talking about a Wi-Fi network here.
Well, you can put on the parental controls. That's really the only thing you can do outside of like a hacky type thing. If you're jailbreaking, but that could be overridden by resetting the jailbreak.
Okay.
And also, if you're blocking with parental controls, again, reset the phone. Problem.
So what about here's the one that got me was
solved,
so obviously, a tech it's pretty much impossible to block it from a tech-savvy individual because if they're tech-savvy, they'll figure it out. But when he talks about because you can block sites at the router level, if you log into your router and you log the router's web interface and block.
But he also said that they know how to
get you mentioned that, but
so that
can't you just lock the router with a password that they don't know?
In theory, but they could also reset the router with a PIN.
That sucks. That's true.
And then of course. The question I'm wondering, too, is who are we blocking the porn from?
Not sure if it's really relevant.
Well, no, I think it's relevant because if it's a kid or if it's an adult, that does matter. Because if it's a tech-savvy kid, I feel like there might be a better way to solve the problem. If you're blocking it from adult, there's no education that's going to help them at this point.
That's true.
If we're trying to solve a porn addiction for somebody, then that's...
But I think that's a little bit outside of our wheelhouse.
Yeah.
As far as the technical solutions go, I don't think that there's much you can do if they can get
if you have a kid that's intelligent, I would be talking to the kid about the porn, but again, it's really hard to comment on that I mean, I don't know what everyone else's parents did, but my parents had a conversation with me about pornography, and although that didn't stop me from looking at it, they understood that was going to happen, and then that was fine because they talked to me about it as a this is not realistic portrayals of sex.
Was it really fine?
No, they may watch this and who am I kidding? They're not watching this. But if they were watching this, I don't know if they would necessarily agree wholeheartedly with what I'm about to say. But but I know they don't have too much of a problem. My mom maybe, but my dad would consider it a realistic thing. And
anyway, you mentioned host tables briefly, and that's one thing I would look into because that is a little bit more difficult than the router, isn't it?
I think it was on what's his name? It was on one of those late night shows. There was a joke thing where whenever a kid went to a porn site, it would put the pictures of their parents or grandparents on the faces of the actors.
Oh my god!
No, so you can't do that. But if you are looking at host tables,
you could redirect
it to like a family website every time they go to a porn site. If you look in their history and you know what they're doing, I feel like if you've got a tech savvy individual who's gonna like go too far and undo any protection that's been put on them.
The question
is but then you want to have a deterrent method where you can just keep going back and forwarding them to these sites.
The best thing to probably in this situation is just get a bunch of different solutions and put them all like host tables, change the router settings, put some parental controls on the computer, just do a bunch of them at once, and then it'll take them forever to figure out how to disable all of them.
Yeah, I think if there's a lot of disabling necessary. You might drive them to porn magazines. I don't know, but you can't block that with technology.
You could also use OpenDNS. I think you can set up an account.
Oh, you're right. That's another option.
If you have your router set to point to OpenDNS, you can tell OpenDNS, "Hey, block all this stuff," or redirect it to this very family-friendly website.
Yeah.
Again, something a tech-savvy individual could figure out if they knew you were using.
Yeah, but if you keep doing it, I feel like if you put in the effort to keep doing it, and there
comes a point where porn isn't worth the effort.
Yeah, they'll resort to their imagination, which is not necessarily a bad thing.
Anyway,
we probably talked this one to death.
Yes, we did. So we'll put some links to some of this stuff in the show notes. But it's definitely a tough one.
And some good porn. No,
no, not the porn.
No. All right, moving on.
What else do we have?
Yeah. All right, we have another caller from Virginia.
Another caller. So many calls.
I know. Thanks for calling in, guys. It really helps. It really makes it.
Yeah,
more interactive.
We love to hear your beautiful voices.
Yes.
And now a beautiful voice from Virginia.
Hey guys, great show. Keep it up. Listen, last summer I followed your advice on how to jailbreak and then free up an iPhone 3, and it works fine. I'm using it actually in an overseas location, and I wanted to find out if I upgrade the iOS version, does that reset the lock? I understand that it'll undo the jailbreak, but I wondered if it will also mean it will be locked again to the original carrier. Thanks.
Okay, so what he's asking, he's got an iPhone 3G, I think maybe it was 3GS, I don't remember, but it's an older iPhone. Doesn't matter either way, but he's not only jailbroken it, but also unlocked the phone. And he's wondering if he upgrades the operating system, will it reset the unlock?
The unlock is what allows you to use the phone on a different carrier than it was originally shipped with.
Yeah, and so first of all, we actually got another question in this one. I figured we just cover this one and this other one in the same topic. Another question asked, does it reset the jailbreak? As the caller said, it absolutely does reset the jailbreak when you upgrade, and that is that's something you have to remember. There's a program called Package Backup. PKG Backup, we'll link to it in the show notes, and it allows you to actually restore your iPhone after the jailbreak has been reset. You have to re-jailbreak again, and you have to reinstall Package Backup, but then it will pull from a Dropbox account or even your address book and make it possible to reinstall all your stuff.
So with Package Backup, you won't lose all of your apps and settings, but you will lose your jailbreak every time you update iOS, and if there's not a jailbreak released for the newest version of iOS, which at this point in time, there is no jailbreak for iOS 5.1. You won't be able to real jailbreak until that comes out. So, if you want to keep your jailbreak, don't upgrade yet. Wait until the jailbreak for iOS 5.1 comes out. Then use Package Backup to back up your stuff. Upgrade, re-jailbreak, and restore your jailbreak data with package backup.
No, so that answers someone else's question. To answer this guy's question, the same thing goes for the unlocking, unless you actually bought a phone that came unlocked, which you can do in other countries. Well, you can do it in the U.S. now. Apple sells them for
now, but not the older iPhones.
Yeah, but not the older iPhones. So you do have to worry about unlocking again. So make sure you absolutely you're very, very diligent about checking if your version of iOS on your device is jailbreakable, which it probably is on the 3G, but and unlockable. And you want to make sure it's an untethered jailbreak as well.
So all the same rules apply.
Yes, same rules apply. So that's that, and we have one more question.
All right, Renee writes in, I was wondering if there's any way to transfer my Instapaper archive and favorites to Readability. I want to switch to Readability, but don't want to lose my archive and favorites. Is there a way to export them and import them to Readability, or go through some sort of intermediate service that can import from Instapaper and import to Readability? Okay, so...
You just did this, didn't you?
Well, I did not do this. I did switch from Instapaper to Readability, because Readability is actually kind of awesome. Now, I did some research on this, and the short answer is no, not really.
Okay.
But, so Readability and Instapaper did used to have an import-export function that would go between them a while ago, but they stopped making that about a year ago. Your only choice right now, you can export from Instapaper, but Readability does not, at the moment, have any kind of import function. There is a program called Readability Import. It's just a little script someone put together on GitHub. We'll put a link to it in the show notes. I haven't tried it myself, so I don't know if it works. I just found this now.
Okay.
I was looking earlier and I didn't find anything, and I just found this before the show, so I'm glad that I found it so I can say something. Your other option is when you export from Instapaper, there's a little export link on the side of the page when you log into Instapaper. You can export either as a CSV, which in theory would work for importing into other programs if they have an import function, or you can export it as an HTML. That essentially gives you a web page with all of the links in your archive, so you can still go read them. So you won't be able to put all of your archived and favorited stories into Readability, but you can export them to one HTML file that you can store on your computer just for posterity if you do want to go back and access those. So they won't be in Readability, but you'll have access to them until Readability creates some sort of import function. So check out Readability, the Readability import script. If that doesn't work, just export them and keep them for a while. I still recommend checking out Readability. It's awesome. And then if they come up with an import function, you can re-import it later on. And there's no reason not to just keep your Instapaper account around either, because you're not paying for it. If you've already paid for the iPad app, you can just shuffle it away into a folder, and if you need to access those later, pull them up. It's no big deal.
Sounds good. So we actually have one more caller before we get done with the questions. He has an answer for a question we had a couple weeks ago or I think it was a couple weeks ago, where someone was asking how to install OS X Lion on an older MacBook or an older computer. I guess
that didn't support it.
That didn't support it by Apple, but it would, like a CoreDuo machine would still run it. Mm-hmm. And so we'll just play his answer, and he'll explain how it works.
Yeah, this isn't really a question, but in your latest episode, you explained ways of installing Lion to an older model Mac, and I have a much easier way for you. Install to a Mac which can accept Lion. Then use SuperDuper to clone that installation to an external hard drive. Then boot to that external hard drive from the older Mac, and once again use SuperDuper to clone that installation onto that older model Mac, assuming that the only problem is the installation process, which requires Mac to make sure that the model number is compatible and the software actually does run well on the older hardware. This will go flawlessly. And yeah, peace.
Cool. So just to summarize, you install OS X Lion on a newer Mac that supports it on an external drive, or you can install it on the main drive and clone it to an external drive using SuperDuper, or we like Carbon Copy Cloner.
Love Carbon Copy Cloner.
And then you can take that drive and then clone it back to the old Mac, and assuming it will run OS X, you're good to go. And that's it. It's pretty easy.
Awesome.
So
thanks for that.
Yeah, let's move on to the downloads.
Downloads. All right, what's up first?
Well, we've got Crashplan for every operating system.
Crashplan, of course.
Does it? We realize that we have the app directory,
which is our directory of all of the best apps in any given category for Mac, Windows, Linux, iOS, and Android. You can check it out at lifehacker.com/apps.
Yes, we did. That was not a shameless plug. That was you really wanted to know about it.
Yes, it's actually quite cool.
Yeah.
If we do say ourselves. But we realized after
we forgot backup,
putting the app directory together for so long, we forgot to do an entry for desktop backup solutions.
Yeah, we did mobile, but we didn't do.
Somehow we did mobile backup, but we never thought to do desktop backup. So this week we revisited that idea, and
Pash he did the post for this. He's been using Crashplan. Which is our choice for the top backup system or software for basically whatever you're running. And I believe they might even have apps for mobile. We'll just take a look at that.
I believe they have apps for mobile that let you monitor your
I mean,
desktop
it's not backing up your phone or whatever.
Essentially, it's an online backup system. You can download it for Windows or Mac.
But what's great is it backs up locally too.
Yes, so it'll back up to an external drive or another computer in your house and to the cloud, so if there's a fire in your house or an earthquake or something like that, you can still get your data if your computer's destroyed. And
if you don't like the cloud or don't like paying for things, you can actually back up to another location that's not Crashplan. You can back up to a friend's house, for example, on their hard drive, which is probably not going to be as quickly, but if you say, did that backup locally, brought the hard drive over to their place, and then had incremental backups that you each kind of send each other, you can do this, this sort of, I'll back up you if you back up me.
And that way you can save a few bucks a month from upload, from the Crashplan service.
Yeah, and you get an offsite thing. But, if your friend's in California, you probably want to find a friend somewhere farther away because eventually California is going to light on fire. And
the whole thing is going to sink right into the ocean.
Yeah, so you're going to lose all your backups.
At any rate, it's there are a few other choices for backing up online. Backblaze is another very popular option, but it's a bit more expensive than Crashplan.
I just rely on Dropbox because everything else I can restore. Yeah, I mean, it's just system files.
It's too bad Pash isn't here to talk about Crashplan because I don't think either of us have used it extensively.
Yeah, I used it a really long time ago, and I always thought it was great. But
I just use Windows backup.
Everything in Dropbox, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I use Windows backup to back up my system if something goes wrong, it can restore. But then I use Dropbox to just keep all of my really important files in the cloud. If there were a fire or an earthquake in my house, getting my system back would be the least of my worries. Getting my custom icons or Windows, like my games, not a problem. The important files that I need are all in Dropbox, so an offsite backup just isn't worth the cost for me.
Yeah.
But if you still haven't backed up your computer, get started with Crashplan this week.
Yeah, it's a really good option, and it's free or not, depending on
how you do it.
Yeah. But Whitson, you invented Windows 7.5 this week.
Our other download is actually a set of downloads. We talk a lot about free downloads at Lifehacker. Yeah. We love free software. We love open source software. But there is a lot of great software out there that costs money that doesn't get...
That's impossible.
It just doesn't get as much attention sometimes. And I was talking... we were talking actually recently about how Windows, when Microsoft updates to a new version of Windows, Windows 8 looks great. It's got a couple of cool new features. But it isn't just packed with features, that we really want to see like some other OSs that I won't mention.
Yeah, I mean, Windows 8, it does have hot stuff like the new Task Manager.
But there are just some things. So instead of spending $100 on Windows 8 and not getting a ton of new features, I put together a little pack of software that costs about $100 and gets you a lot of really cool new features that integrate directly into Windows.
What does it
So this
with?
Includes things like Fences, which is a great way to
I actually like Fences.
Organize icons on your desktop, which is something that desktops can get so cluttered so quickly. It's a great way to just keep kind of some of your files organized. Explorer 2 Pro, which is a great alternative file manager to Windows Explorer. It'll even replace Windows Explorer. It has 3 panes. If you move a lot of files around, it's amazing. You'll never go back to Windows Explorer. Things like Bins, which creates little stacks of icons in your taskbar.
From the maker of Fences?
From the maker of Fences. Divi, which helps you divide up windows and your screen. and Display Fusion Pro, which is great for people who use multiple monitors. So go check out that article. Obviously, you don't need to buy them all at once. You can buy whichever apps you like, but we also have a video up that kind of demonstrates a few features of each app. But essentially, it was just my way of creating a new version of Windows that cost the same as a new version of Windows, but had way more features and more stuff that I really want.
Let's be honest, it was your way of saying "suck it, Microsoft."
It was, it was really just my way of justifying buying all of these apps.
Yeah.
Because I put it off for so long, and they're great apps, but I was like, I don't want to spend money on apps. And I was like, look, as soon as Windows 8 comes out, I would usually jump to upgrade to it. So why wouldn't I jump to actually
be forced to upgrade to it?
Well, I'm still going to upgrade to Windows 8. But if I would be that quick to spend $100 on Windows 8, why am I not quick to spend $100 on programs that are actually really going to change my Windows experience?
Yeah, that is a very good point.
Yeah. So check that out.
Cool. So next, something I believe hell froze over this week, and Instagram came to Android. So
the heavens opened up, and we were finally blessed with the real Instagram after being forced to use pretty good Instagram clones for a really long period of time.
Instagrat.
Yeah.
I don't know what. It's really weird. But Alan, you want to tell us about
you're an
it?
Instagram fan.
I'm not an Instagram fan.
Oh, okay.
What?
Never mind. I thought you were an Instagram fan.
No, it's cool. I mean, the Instagram for Android, I remember when they made the announcement that Instagram for Android was going to come out, they were like, in some ways it's better than our iOS app, and everybody was excited. And then it came out, and it's okay. I mean, it's pretty much this.
It's the same thing.
But it's still Instagram.
Yeah,
I think Instagram is pretty cool.
It gives you access to the whole network and everything. The one thing that it's missing from the Android app that iPhone users have is that tilt shift filter. So Android users don't get that
when it came out.
Okay, well that's
okay though.
The really cool thing about Instagram to me is just how quick it is to take a picture, make it look less crappy, and share it to Facebook.
Yeah,
it just works really well.
Filter.
Yeah, I mean, because I used to love Hipstamatic, and that was I think the first one to really do that. Hopefully, I'm not offending the first person if they wasn't Hipstamatic. But, that was the first one I came across, and it was and Instagram. I didn't think I'd actually switch over to, but then it's just so fast.
It just works so well. It's just a nice way to merge sharing and cell phone pictures that look don't maybe look as good, but you can add filters.
I don't take a lot of cell phone pictures.
I don't either. I think, just a quick aside, I think the really weird thing about this story is that apparently a bunch of iOS users got really mad that it appeared on Android because they liked being special.
Oh, whatever.
That's
some tweets
absurd to me. I know.
Now
what,
I get
really?
to see what poor people eat for dinner. Really?
Yeah.
Wait, someone said that?
Yes.
Oh, God.
Wow. All right. So today we learned.
Everyone on Android, please download it and piss off the iOS users. I say that.
This is coming from an iOS user and a soon-to-be iOS user. So I think I just came out of the iOS closet. Yeah. I don't think I had told anyone that yet. Oops.
Oh no.
All right. Moving on.
All right. Let's pretend you didn't hear it. We're talking about now an iPad app called MagicReader, and this one is very easy to explain. Let's pretend this was an iPad because it's basically an iPad. In laptop form, and you're reading and you don't want to touch it, even though I'm touching it. You're reading a PDF and you don't want to touch it, and so you want to navigate the page. When you have MagicReader, you just look at it and go.
For those of you not watching the video version, all he's doing is moving his head, and the PDF magically turns pages. So it's great if you're resting your iPad on your knees or something and not touching it, or you're eating food.
Yeah, but you kind of the way you have to move your head, you have to move it just enough so it looks kind of sarcastic. So it's like screw you, book.
Like a humph.
I'm sick of this page. It's a free reader though, so if you'd think generally a feature like that it's unusual to see that for free. I think it would be great if they had a voice activated one. That would be awesome. And it does take a second to recognize your face, which is not great. But on the other hand, if you're actually using it to read rather than just trying to move your head a lot to see what happens, then that's actually
pretty cool.
Yeah, it works because you're not gonna be flipping the pages more than once a second.
Right.
Cool. But yeah, so then what do we have at the end of the road?
Last we have Fitocracy, which updated this week or came out with an iOS app. I'm not sorry, Alan. You tell us about this. I'm not a Fitocracy user.
Yeah, both actually. So they came out of private beta, so we've written about them a couple times, and
what are
we
they?
always had
Sorry.
to have invite codes.
Explain to us what Fitocracy is for those of us that don't, because I don't exercise.
Yes, you
So
do.
Fitocracy is kind of like an MMO for exercise fans. Like, if you like video games and you are like me and need to get in shape, then it kind of takes all those great elements you love about video games, like getting levels and earning badges and completing quests and challenges and things, and it puts them into this exercise tool that you can get a whole bunch of friends together and you can say, okay, we're all going to go do this thing together. We're all going to go on this quest and we're going to go and tackle this challenge. And you earn points for everything you do. Like, whether you walk up a flight of stairs, it's like 2 points. You go for a 5-mile run, that's like 20 points or something like that. It's pretty cool.
Real life experience points.
Yeah, and and I think, I've been reading again about motivation, and this isn't news or anything, but people tend to do things that where they feel like they're making a difference or earning something out of it. And there are a lot of things I wanted to improve this year that I've been moderately successful with. I mean, it's been going pretty well. I've been exercising and I've been cleaning and writing more and doing all this other stuff. And I found that the most rewarding one of these was cleaning, which I thought I would have the most trouble with. But it was because I get this instant reward. Like, I feel like I got something out of it. And exercise is a big problem because you don't see results right away. And sometimes, it's a really long time.
But if you're earning experience points, you see those results right away. Now, the real motivation I have with video games is that I get the satisfaction of having saved entire alien civilizations.
Yeah, so
do I get to do that with Fitocracy?
No, you don't get
I get the thanks of
no.
billions and billions of alien life forms? Okay.
Well,
then I'm not going to use it.
They've got to do something.
So Fitocracy's been in private beta for a while, right?
Yeah.
And so what happened?
They came out of private beta, so they're available to everybody. At the same time, they launch a new iPhone app, so you can track your workouts right after you worked out or something, so you don't go to the gym and then forget to get your points by the time you get home. So that's pretty much the thrust of it, although they redesigned the site too, so it's a lot easier to use. And there's even a kind of unofficial Lifehacker group in Fitocracy, so
nice.
If you sign up for it, you should definitely join the group.
Cool.
Awesome.
And then you had a couple of other things this week too about fitness and health that are probably worth mentioning right now.
Yeah, so Fitocracy is great for exercise, but there's this other new service called Slim Kicker that does the same thing for food and diet. And so they have challenges and badges around things like go 5 days without drinking soda, or switch to tea instead of coffee, and things like that. So it's pretty much same idea, not as big a community, but it's just getting off the ground, and it's really cool too.
Who can use it? Is it a web app or is it a mobile?
It's a web app, yeah.
Okay.
And they also have an iPhone app. They say an Android app is on the way, but we'll see.
We all know how long it took Instagram to get there.
Yeah, exactly. So, but aside from that, this week I put together an article on how to kind of reform your relationship with food, because I know one of my biggest problems personally, when I manage my diet is, you go out to a restaurant and you get a huge heaping bowl of pasta or something, right? And then you find out later that the serving size for that bowl was like a quarter of it. So that sucks. So,
yeah.
How do you go from eating all of that to eating a quarter of that without making yourself miserable? So that was a big deal. I talked to a couple of nutritionists to find out how you can, improve your diet without making yourself hate life in the process.
Yeah.
Cool. They had some really good tips.
All right, well, we'll put a link to that in the show notes.
And everyone can check that
out,
as well
as Slim Kicker. It basically, people who are trying to improve their nutrition and exercise got a lot of cool apps this week. Yeah. All right, cool. All right. Well, that's all of our downloads, so we are done for the day.
Yeah, and we will see you next week as usual. Thanks for listening, and thanks for your questions. If you'd like to ask us a question, send us an email at tips+asklhshow@lifehacker.com. Alternatively, leave us a message at 347-687-8109. Try to keep your questions to about 30 seconds so we can keep the show moving. And thanks for watching, listening, or however you're getting this podcast from the internet to your brain. Oh yeah, here. Another clap.
From now on, high fives will be our mark.
Yeah. Yeah, we should do that. How you doing, Alan?
Good.
So.
Hold on, wait. No. There we go.
What?
Oh, what's it? Bam! That's what I'm talking about.
All right.
Yeah, well, that'll be after the credits.
Yeah, for real. All right.